and welcome to the Shy Sheep. So on this week's video I thought we would discuss 5 things that I hate about figure collecting. I just have to say before I start this video, this is all in good fun. I don't actually hate figure collecting at all, but I think with any hobby there's always something that irritates you about it just a little bit, so I'm not trying to like say they ruin it for me or something. They're just like little things that annoy me that I wish I had maybe taken more notice of or like known more about before starting. It by no means means that I hate this or that it makes me hate it or anything, so please please don't think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm actually just trying to have fun, and maybe there are some things that I mentioned that irritate you as well, so I thought it would just be fun, so please take this with a grain of salt. Also, before I start, I just wanted to say that I am going into my November exam season now, so I might miss a few uploads this coming month because I do have quite a few difficult exams coming up. So if you don't see me for a bit or I miss a few uploads, please excuse that. I'll be back very soon. The first one, I have a list, but yes, number 1 is shipping costs, as well as the customs or duties involved in this. Oh my god. I feel like shipping costs with figures is like the bane of my existence. I absolutely despise the shipping costs. I feel like it's especially bad because I always use DHL, since I have troubles trusting my postal system. In fact, I wanted to try out EMS for a small package that I have coming, but at this time of the year, I do remember something came through the post to me last year by mistake around this time of year, and I actually only ended up getting it in February. We actually all thought it was lost, so I didn't choose EMAs obviously for that package. But yeah, so I feel this is especially bad since I do have to use DHL, and I'm sure all you Canadians right now who can only use DHL because you don't have the EMS option are feeling this. But I just feel like when you see the price of a figure, it can seem like such a good deal, but if you add in the shipping, it's like just so expensive all of a sudden, and you're like, oh my god, why does it have to be this expensive to ship something to me? Like, I just don't understand it. So yeah, the shipping costs really get to me, especially on the websites like Army and that, where they don't give you the shipping cost until the time that the product is released and literally being invoiced to you. So it's kind of like a guessing game, and you don't know actually how much your shipping is going to be. And with DHL, the price seems to sort of grow exponentially. So for me, I'm really stressing. And it could be the difference between being able to afford a figure and not afford a figure, you know, if the shipping price is just too expensive. So that's a really big gripe. I really wish that companies could at least estimate shipping prices for you and put like a disclaimer that it may increase or decrease upon the figure's release. But just to give you a ballpark figure for your region, it would make it so much easier to try and budget for figures as well, because I find it really difficult to try and budget for pre-orders because I don't know how much my shipping is going to be anymore. Yeah, I really don't like customs and shipping because they're like these hidden costs in buying figures that you just don't think about when like pre-ordering something, and then later along the line you're like, oh my god. So number 2, we have the storage of figures and their boxes, as well as the costs, sorry, that was a dog, as well as the costs involved in this storage. So obviously I know that I need some way to put my figures and their boxes, like I knew that going in. You only realize once you start collecting how quickly the space fills up, especially like in a display cabinet or in a storage area where you're storing the boxes. You only realize once you have a few figures how quickly everything starts to just fill up, and you're like, how did this even happen? I have no space all of a sudden. And The hidden costs in storage. You think that all you're doing is spending money on a figure and like that's the end of it, even if it includes the shipping in your budget now. And then you remember you need somewhere to put your figures. And if you're like me and you have cats that want to destroy everything precious to you, you need to keep them somewhere enclosed that they can't get to. So then that requires you to buy like a detolf, or like we buy this wood and the perspex that goes in here, and obviously that all costs money. So yeah, and it obviously adds up, and the more figures you buy, the more storage you'll need. So yeah, it actually is a lot more than just a figure that you end up buying. You're actually spending money on shipping and customs and duties and storage for the figure, like a place to display it, or even storage for your boxes. Like if you want to store them on shelves and you don't have shelves or something like that, that could also end up being an added expense. So I guess what I'm saying is there's just a lot of hidden expenses within the hobby that you aren't aware of really fully until you start collecting, and like they become kind of irritating because then they take money away that you could have used to buy a figure, you know? My third one, which I don't know how well this will go over, but it is my personal opinion, so please don't hate me. My third one is I really dislike how I've noticed a lot of people make other people feel bad within the anime figure community for cancelling pre-orders, especially cancelling quite a few pre-orders that they've made. So I'm not sure if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I am of the opinion that it is okay to cancel your pre-orders as long as it is done far enough in advance and you have obviously not been invoiced already. Then you should just commit and rest in peace, wallet. So yeah, I have noticed, especially on like the subreddit for the anime figures, that a lot of people get kind of mean when people want to cancel pre-orders, or when they say they have to cancel quite a lot of pre-orders. Now, I understand you should try to pre-order things that you can afford, which I do. Whenever I pre-order something, I am making the assumption that I will be able to afford it. I check what I have pre-ordered in that month of release to make sure that I'm not pre-ordering too much. So I'm always assuming that I can afford something when I pre-order it. But of course, like, life happens and unexpected expenses can come up that you could not have planned for or foreseen. And, you know, maybe you actually don't want to spend that money in that month anymore and you need to cancel it. Or maybe you pre-ordered it and then a few months down the line you actually realize that you don't love that character as much as you thought you did, or you don't love them as much as you did anymore. And I think it's okay to cancel it then. But I hate how everyone makes you feel so bad for wanting to cancel it. Like I need to be signing my life away for this figure. Like, expenses happen. There have been quite a few figures from my pre-orders list that I did earlier this year that I've actually had to cancel, either due to financial things, or I've noticed that I'm not as interested in that particular thing anymore. And personally, I don't want to go then and spend money on a figure that I may not love anymore, or may not love as much as my other figures, because I only want to have figures that I absolutely love. I understand that you should make sure you want a figure, but also I don't think, like, even if you did wait a while and you pre-ordered it, there's still a chance that you might end up not loving the character later on, or maybe thinking that you love another character more that's coming out in a month and then leading you to cancel a pre-order, which I also think is fine because you're kind of just replacing it with a pre-order. So yeah, and I also think sometimes you can wait too long and then you miss out on the figure, and you might not be able to find them anywhere else, but I really despise how people make you feel bad for cancelling because of those reasons. Like, everyone is trying to do this hobby differently and things work for different people, and I don't think that you should make someone feel bad for cancelling a pre-order because you don't know what they're going through financially, and I don't think that you should make someone feel bad for not wanting a figure anymore that they no longer love anymore. They couldn't have foreseen themselves falling out of love with the figure. So number 4 is I really struggle to keep up with all the figure announcement and releases. I feel overwhelmed quite often in this hobby by how many announcements for new figures and prototypes and stuff is just going up, and how many releases there are. It's like a new figure is released every single day, which on the other side, I'm really grateful that there's so many figures releasing. There's so much variety for everyone, and you can, like, it's always exciting to see what's releasing then every day, but it's like really overwhelming at the same time, because if you do like a lot of the figures releasing, you have to start picking and choosing, and maybe there's some figures that you simply can't pick and choose between. Like, it's like picking between Haikyuu and Jujutsu Kaisen for me. Like, I can't pick and choose, you know? You're blasted with so many announcements and releases that it's so difficult to keep up with. There are figures obviously releasing every month, obviously, but it's really difficult when it just seems like there's like multiple things all the time. Like, I don't feel like, it just feels like the companies aren't spacing the releases, they don't space their announcements. I kind of feel like there's a constant position that you're put in of picking and choosing instead of only occasionally picking and choosing. I feel like a good example, I've noticed Freeing seems to do this quite a bit. So I'll use Freeing as the example. I recently saw those Rent-A-Girlfriend bunnies that they're releasing. I haven't seen the anime, but I know it's really popular and lots of people like the characters. And I saw Chizuru and the girl in the pink bunny suit, I don't know her name, they're releasing in May. They made both of them release in May, and I thought it was so unfair to the Rent-A-Girlfriend fans. I feel overwhelmed talking about it, thinking about all the releases, but yeah, I really wish that they would space them. Even if the releases happened later, it would just make things better financially and like mentally in your head to like process everything that's happening, you know? Number 5, the last thing that I hate about figure collecting is ridiculous aftermarket prices that seem to shoot up like almost immediately after release. I did some reading the other night. Granted, it was not a lot of reading, so maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems from in the past of figure collecting, aftermarket prices didn't seem to shoot up as rapidly and as high. So I read someone said that generally for most figures it used to be like you could get them for like about a couple months to like a year at reasonable prices depending on the rarity of the figure, before they got to like their really hectic aftermarket prices that were like almost unaffordable, you know? That's at least what I could gather, and that sounds pretty reasonable to me. But nowadays, it just seems like as soon as the figure releases, it almost immediately becomes like 2,000 to 5,000 yen more expensive for no reason at all, because sometimes it's still available on other sites for its retail price. So it really confuses me seeing these really high aftermarket prices jump up so suddenly after a figure. Like even 3 months after a figure has released, I've seen bunnies that are just so exponentially expensive that you can't even consider them anymore. It just kind of frustrates me because there's a lot of figures that I want personally on my wish list that have all been released, and they are just far too expensive for me to even consider. I don't understand how something can get released and then like almost double its price like a couple months, like maybe 3 to 6 months later its price is already doubled. It doesn't make sense. I really don't understand it at all, like even in the slightest, but I know bunny figures especially experience this problem. Most of my wished figures that have been released are kind of on the back burner because I don't have that money to spend on them. But yeah, maybe I'll get them if I can find them for a good deal. That's all I have for you in this video. Those are my 5 reasons, or I mean 5 things I hate about figure collecting. It's not like it makes me hate the hobby at all, but they're just little like things that irritate me. And I hoped that you enjoyed hearing me bitch about figure collecting for the past, I don't know how many minutes this video will be, but yeah. So I hope that you enjoyed. Come back anytime for another session of complaining. Oh my god, that was so cringe. Please ignore me. I hope to see you here next week, but if you don't want to, it's okay, I understand. And yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you here next time, which will hopefully